Hello, and welcome. I'm attempting to join a big board, and I got something that said unknown error. And so I probably should have joined this before I started the stream, but I did not. And now I am doing some tech support on the fly. All right, we are waiting for 7. I can share this screen now. So I am going to do that. Bear with me while I load this up and try to see if we can get some people in here. Waiting for 7 if anyone wants to join a stream draft or two. All right. We will remove the embed from the Discord link. That went out. And here we go. So, waiting for 7. These, again, have been filling slower than they were in the days leading up to the Super Bowl when this contest first opened. But still impressive that we are filling these as fast as we are. The combine, the tight ends play on Friday, and the quarterbacks and wide receivers and running backs on Saturday. I believe I have that right. So we are going to start getting some actionable information this weekend, which is very exciting. So looking forward to that, trying to hop in some of these before the combine, because I think we're going to see a lot of big risers. So it always stinks when there's a guy that you wanted to get more of who's going in round 19 and 20, suddenly rocket up to round 12. It feels like you really missed the bus. So I'm trying to do a lot of my 150 before the combine. Of course, if you're wrong about a guy and they plummet, then you feel kind of like an idiot if you take a big stand. But that's why most of my big rookie stands are in the late rounds, because worst cases, it's hard to fall past pick 20. So waiting for 4. I can pull up my exposures. Actually, I can pull up my exposures, see where we're at. And again, way too much Jack Betch. I have been trying to keep everyone below 40%. I have failed in that because Jack Betch is above 40%. I intentionally have a ton of David Njoku because I think big value. But Brashad Smith at 39.5 is definitely higher than I wanted. Same with LaQuinn Allen at 32. So trying to bring those down, trying to mix up my late round running backs more than I have been. And that means taking more guys like Tootin, more guys like Juwan James, more guys like Rashad Smith. Boy, that's embarrassing. Yeah, Smith. Brashad Smith. There we go. So still looking at the rookies. That's not even who I meant. I actually meant Raheem Sanders when I said Brashad Smith. So there we go. So I got 10% of him. So trying to even those late round rookies out more than I have been. So waiting for 2 in the big board. Again, feel free to join. It is always more fun to have people in here when I do these drafts. So give me one moment. I will get the ducks going, and hopefully we'll get started soon. Here we go. Feeding the ducks. All right, and we are off. It is difficult to talk to yourself with absolutely nothing in the background. So the background music helps with that. did hop in a bigger board, which I am a bigger board slow, and I am going to take Bijan at 3 in this draft. I don't see a reason to do anything too far afield. Yeah, there's not really too much to it there. I don't know if I am going to max this contest. I think it's a 5 max, but if I was only doing one, I would potentially pick my favorite player in this range, which I think is Bijan. Although, if I do only 2 of these and I get the 3, I might take Gibbs or I might take Jefferson there to try to vary it up a little bit. I want as much of this draft done before the combine as I can, so I don't think in this case I did not want to milk the clock, so I just wanted to fire my pick so one more for this big board. One more. Let's see, assuming it fetches the draft, because this will what's going on here? All right, there we go. Network error. My goodness, what is going on here? I've been getting some weird Underdog errors. I don't know if this is happening to anyone else, but getting some odd errors today. So we have been waiting for this one to fill for 7 minutes, and we are full. We are live, and we are rolling. So let's see. Anyone we recognize in here? I've been in a couple drafts with Deep State Comics. That name kind of makes me laugh. Don't recognize the other names. I know there's a Foxy who had a high advance rate, but I don't think it's Foxy style. I think it's a different Foxy. All right. I am a little worried that I have some connection issues, so please let me know if my audio is not working or if anything is going on, because I'm getting some unique errors I have not seen before. But here we go. We are 10 seconds from liftoff. Got the 9 hole, which I like. I find myself, if I don't get one of the first 3 or 4, I prefer the 8 and 9 to the very back end of the first round. I think it gives you a lot of flexibility in your second round pick that you may not get otherwise. So far, so good with Chase and Barkley going. But yeah, when you're picking at 9, the wraparound, you're typically able to take one of the elite running backs if you want them, or you can get one of the elite wide receivers. Now, it seems like the running backs have actually gotten pushed up lately and the receivers down. Drake London felt like he was going more towards 14, and I know that's where Bauer's ADP was actually a shade above 14, and he slipped almost 17 now. So it may, I guess, no longer be true that you can guarantee yourself one of the elite running backs. Now, you could always take them at 9 if that's what you want to do. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking Gene T or CMC or Henry if that's your favorite at 9, and then picking like a Drake London or AJ Brown on the wraparound. Personally, that's not what I'm doing. I'm going to take Malik Neighbors here. I am more excited about Neighbors than I am about Amon-Ra this season. In here, queued up, I have the leg up rankings. I haven't really used these rankings too much, but going to give them a shot. And see if I like it. But I am going to IKB that first pick and take Neighbors over St. Brown rather. I have a little bit of concern in Detroit. Just watching them the year before last, I felt like Amon-Ra was like the security blanket. The offense flowed through him. This year, it didn't feel the same way. You know what? I'm gonna take I'm going to take a share of Bowers here, I think. And no, I'm not. I'm going to take Drake London. I've been trying to get more Brock Bowers, but to me, the 2v2s you get when you take Bowers here versus if you take even McBride later could be a first rounder, and it would not surprise me. So I have a really hard time passing on London in the second, and I'm sure my exposures reveal that if I were to bring them up. I don't worry about Bowers as a player, but I worry about the opportunity cost of taking him. Now, there is definitely an argument that next year we're going to be taking Bowers in the first round like we used to with peak Travis Kelce, which is fine, which may in fact be true. But I do worry that the Bowers run out was as pure as it could get, where you had bad but not awful QB play. You had no target competition other than Jacoby Myers, and you had no running game. And so I think we're all saying that was Bowers' rookie year. He's going to get better, which might be true. But the situation might get worse. Now, if the Raiders are better, then, the whole offense could be better, and Bowers continues to produce at that elite level. But I just worry that we're thinking he's going to take a step up, and he won't. And last year was closer to the top. But that could be ridiculous because, again, he is a rookie, or was a rookie, and looks like a generational tight end talent. But again, for me to pass on a elite running back or elite wide receiver to then have to make up ground in those departments, I just don't like how the teams have ended up looking when I do that. And we'll see where we end up at tight end. I don't think I'll be lucky enough for McBride to fall all the way to me at 33, but if he did, I would definitely take him there because I like the concept of elite tight end. I advanced one big board team to the finals last season, and that was a double elite tight end build. So I am certainly aware of the power of spike weeks from the one-off positions, or from your tight end position, really can propel you through the playoff rounds and even just to compile stats during the regular season. So we are coming up. I have not been taking a ton of elite QB. I think Josh Allen is way overpriced for what he does and for how little Buffalo really wants him to run in the regular season. I've been trying to take less Josh Allen. I am up here. By the rankings, it would be Kyron, who I don't take a ton of. I think I want to take DJ Moore here and start with a kind of 0 RB or potentially hero RB, depending on what I do next build. I don't have a ton of Kyron. I should take more because McVay loves him, but the cracks are starting to show a little bit, not in the usage department because McVay runs him into the ground, but not as efficient as he was the year before last, not as explosive by the eye test. I think there's a little bit of systemic risk in the Rams offense itself, especially if Stafford leaves. The whole season could come apart a little bit. So I'm very wary of Kyron, and I have not been taking a whole heck of a lot of him. I know I said I'm not big on Allen, but I think if he falls to 40, I might take him because of the ADP value is so big. I don't have a ton of Jaden Daniels nor Jalen Hurts, and that feels wrong. So I think I would take Allen and then possibly followed by Daniels here. So Allen goes, then Daniels goes. So now I am in the position of do I take Hurts? Do I take one of these running backs or another receiver? And I think I'm going to take an unstacked Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's a guy you need to stack. He, is clearly the goal line back in Philly. I don't have a lot of Hurts, and I want to get more of him. I like some of the later running backs you can get. I don't take a lot of Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, I feel like there is a lot of risk that he really falls off this season. I like Chuba Hubbard, but I did not want to take him 7 spots ahead of ADP. So happy with the start here. Hurts, Neighbors, London, and more. Being that we're in February, it is the time of year to tell yourself tales, and I can tell myself that the Week 17 divisional matchup between the Eagles and the Giants is what you need. So, always nice to be able to lie to yourself in these drafts. And so, happy with the start. And then when I pick in this, 57 and 64, there's a lot of running backs in that range who I like. So I'll probably double tap running back unless there's a huge value that falls to me at receiver. As far as tight ends, it's possible Kittle falls. Sam Laporta is going to be in that range. I like Laporta a lot. I think my preference is going to be to take 2 running backs. Again, it's going to depend if, there's a huge faller. I might have to reassess and take the value. Obviously not at quarterback. Not going to take another quarterback past Hurts for a while. But, if one of these receivers, if, say Jalen Waddle is there at 64, I might end up deciding to take him versus a running back and hope that we can really go full 0 RB and lean on the fact that this is theoretically a very deep wide receiver or running back class. Rashee Rice might fall to me. He's a guy I just don't take a lot of. I am very worried about him coming off the knee injury. I am very worried that he, we're assuming a 4-game suspension, but it definitely could be more. And there is, of course, Xavier Worthy really came into his own. I don't want to have to make this choice. Okay, I'm glad because I like the value. I don't want 0. And let's see the rankings. So I'm going to go with the leg up rankings, and I will take Hampton here. He's right at ADP. I could have taken Kamara. I think I have a little more Kamara than I want. I think, if Kamara stays healthy, he's a good value, but he is starting to kind of, the wheels are definitely beginning to fall off of Kamara. We're taking him earlier than we were taking him last year, and he's another year older. It doesn't feel like my favorite pick. So we are going to get, or potentially going to get, the Laporta question. I would have taken Caleb Johnson there. I am not in love with Montgomery. You know what? I am going to take Laporta. So we're going to do a hero RB with Omari and Hampton, which really does not feel like the safest build that ever was. But we're going to try it, and we're going to see what happens. Hampton, in a lot of metrics, is projected as the second best running back of what is supposed to be a very good running back class. Looked fantastic at North Carolina, and I feel like there's something to be said for these guys that flash at smaller programs in bigger conferences, suggesting, this guy might really be quite good. Again, with these running backs, it's a lot of it is more landing spot necessarily than talent, at least in the rookie year, because if you don't get the opportunity, or you're kind of buried on the depth chart, or you go somewhere and they decide your role is, first and second round down plotter, or you're the third down back, or you're the change of pace back, there's just nothing you can do if you're not on the field. So it is always a little risky taking these rookies, because you don't know what teams are going to do. But again, I think Hampton is pretty much a lock, as much as anyone is a lock before the draft, to go in the first round. So don't mind him as my hero RB. Laporta, though, I really like at his ADP, or especially a little after. I want pieces of that Detroit offense. I like the 2v2 I got with Laporta and Drake London versus Brock Bowers. And, where would I have taken? Where did I take Laporta? The next best receiver was Calvin Ridley. So it would have been like Calvin Ridley and Bowers versus Drake London and Laporta. And in my mind, I'd really rather take the second one. I'd rather have London and Laporta. It could be wrong. Definitely could be wrong. But that's, to me, the sort of calculus when I pass on a Bowers. That's kind of where my head is at in that, in my thinking. So I am going to be picking at 81 and 88. If I pass on Pollard or Warren, the question is will Aaron Jones be there? Because if he's not, it gets pretty sketchy. I think I am going to take Tony Pollard here. I'm assuming Tennessee is going to be a lot better. I think Pollard looked a lot better as the season went on. He kept doing that weird thing where he would not practice all week and then would play and actually be pretty decent. Another year removed from the foot surgery. I like Pollard. I think he represents a pretty good value there. So yeah, Aaron Jones would not have come around because, this guy might have taken Pollard, but Aaron Jones at 82. We might see Jones rise if he does go back to the Vikings. But I think I prefer Pollard. Jones felt like he got a little wobbly towards the end of the year. So this is kind of a weird draft. Mahomes is really falling. Bo Nix is now at ADP. And these wide receivers are not instilling a lot of confidence, which is unfortunate. And I don't need a quarterback. So I'm at kind of a weird spot where I could take Mooney ahead of ADP to have London Mooney pairing. Mooney as my fourth receiver feels bad, but all of these feel kind of bad. I might consider taking Warren here and trying to catch up at RB. Obviously, if Najee leaves, Pittsburgh is going to bring in another running back. I don't love that his usage with Arthur Smith was a little wonkier than we'd want. I think he ran a little bad in the touchdown department last season, and we really liked him last year. We were taking him ahead of Najee, and that was wrong because Najee had the better role in Pittsburgh. But assuming Najee leaves and assuming Pittsburgh brings someone in who they don't invest a ton of draft capital, I think Warren's in line for a better season. And honestly, passing on Kupp, with landing spot risk, with dust ball risk, Shaheed coming off of a bad knee injury. I think it was torus meniscus, and speed receiver coming off a knee injury is a little scary. And then Darnell Mooney, I might be sticking to my priors too much, thinking he's kind of just a guy. I don't know if I wanted to reach up ahead of ADP to take him, to stack him with London. Kind of led me to that Warren pick. And again, I don't think spending more draft capital at quarterback was the move in that situation. So hopefully our next pick we're more excited about. But again, we're going to end up in kind of a dead-ish zone of receiver, probably targeting a guy like Bateman or Mims if they come around to us, which hopefully they will. I'm going to pause or mute for 1 second here. All right, we are back. So a slew of receivers goes off. Caleb goes off. Weird Bo Nix is still on the board, to the point where I will be tempted to take him if he falls to me, but I don't think he will. People are very QB thirsty in the big board. Most teams we see take a third quarterback. So honestly, it's pretty rare to see him all the way down here. Jared Goff is tempting because then I can stack him with Laporta. Again, this is kind of a weird, it feels a little bit of a weird room right now. I am surprised that this is where we are. So Bo Nix comes off the board. So I could go double elite tight end and take Andrews, or I could take one of these receivers. And the Andrews fall is tempting because then I could bust out, everyone's favorite streamer phrase of we could be done at tight end. But honestly, I really could be done at tight end. And I take a lot of 3 tight end teams. In the big board, it feels safer taking 3 QB, 3 tight end because your risk of an injury sending that position to 0 is so much less when you have 3 versus 2. But the corollary is if Laporta doesn't get there or he gets hurt early enough in the season, I'm in a lot of trouble because of how much draft capital I used on him. So I'm gonna, I took Andrews here and probably will not take another tight end. There's a lot of late tight ends I like, but I am excited about the possibility of this double tight end team. My goodness, we are just weird stuff with Goff falling this far. Like I am tempted to take Goff and then be done at quarterback and then load up at running back and receiver. I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to take Goff. This is kind of a weird build. I haven't built teams like this previously. I don't know if these drafts are changing because the really sweaty people who are drafting in February have slowed down and now we're getting some new players in who draft differently. But I feel like that's a good value on Goff. And again, now I might also decide to be done at quarterback, maybe take like a late Jackson Dart, but even that starts to feel a little unnecessary. I am going to be hopelessly thin at wide receiver, and I'm going to try to make that up with late volume, I think. So this could be a team where I take 6 running backs and then 9 receivers or even 10 receivers, which I haven't built a lot of. I have not built a lot of teams like that, but we'll see. We'll see what the room gives us. But I felt like the ADP value on Andrews and Goff, I just didn't want to let slip, and we'll find out. We'll find out. I don't want all my big board teams to look the same, so I'm kind of excited to have a team that doesn't look anything like a team that I already have. Of course, what is likely to happen is Dallas Goedert is going to fall all the way to me 10 picks past ADP, and I'm going to be tempted to stack him with Hurts. None of you all, please let me do that, because that seems bad, as tempting as that is. All right, so Neal goes, Spears goes, and Njoku at 118 to me is such a gift. My goodness. I love Njoku this year. I have, as you saw, I have over 40%. I'm just trying to see, no one's throwing this draft as far as I can tell. Now, J Puppy's doing weird stuff. J Puppy took 4 running backs and then took 6 receivers, which is a little odd. Papa Chula took 3 quarterbacks in a row. I'm trying to understand some of these ADP falls, and I'm not quite getting there. So this is kind of a very strange room. Now my day of reckoning has arrived, because I need a wide receiver badly. And the highest wide receiver by ADP does not play wide receiver. He's going to play cornerback in the National Football League. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm taking Dallas Goedert. We are going to make a weird team, triple elite-ish tight end. I am not just doing this to try to have a gritty, weird team, but well past ADP. I get my Jalen Hurts stack. I don't want Travis Hunter because he's going to play corner. I don't want Quentin Johnson because I have eyes and I've watched him play football, and that's bad. I like Hollywood Brown, but if I don't get him, it's not the end of the world. So I will begin to just start jamming wide receivers, rookie receivers if I have to. But I think there was a reasonable chance that Goddard ends up hitting my lineup, that I really have built a team where 2 of these tight ends are going to hit this lineup weekly, which might be really bad. This team might be really bad, but it's at least a little bit of a different build. Had I not taken Goddard, I would have ended up with Brown and then probably Romeo Doubs. And is that great? I don't know. Romeo Doubs versus, Restrepo or Thielen or even a flyer in Whittington, who's a guy I don't take much of. I don't think that's a big loss. So gonna try something new. May never try that again. Do not try this at home. I don't think 3 tight ends before pick 130 is optimal. I think if you read anyone's guide or manifesto, they will say don't do this. But sometimes you're in you're in the trenches, and you gotta try some stuff. And so we are trying something new. Whatever I do not want to take another quarterback. I don't want this to be a 3-6-8-3 build. I absolutely need to have that 1 QB spot I normally devote invested in receiver. So as long as I do that, I will say I tried something, and as they say, most of your lineups are going to lose anyway. I believe it was Davis. Davis said that, and it's true. So at least we can have a little fun. But who knows? Maybe we've stumbled on something new here. But this room does seem to agree that Travis Hunter, not a great pick, falling past ADP. I have 0 shares of Travis Hunter, and I'm perfectly fine with that stand at this point. So looking at what is coming up, as far as wide receivers, Isaiah Bond, good chance that he's picked in the first round, so I would be happy with Isaiah Bond if he fell to me. Tillman is a guy I want to be taking a little more of. The concussion thing is a little scary, being that, there hasn't been a lot of news. getting shut down for the end of the season is worrisome, but also the situation, that Cleveland team wasn't going anywhere. So, would they have shut him down if they were in the playoff hunt? I don't know. And none of us seem to know. So, Cleveland likely will have a better real-life quarterback than Jameis Winston, but will they have a better fantasy quarterback? Another question that we don't have the answer to yet, but one that I'm willing to take because Tillman was very productive at the end of the year last year. So, again, he's a guy I have not clicked on a ton of, but would like to click on a little more. And I'll take Bond here as my 5th receiver. I'll go over the team now. We got Jalen Hurts and Jared Goff at quarterback. Goff was a big ADP faller. Marion Hampton, Tony Pollard, and Jalen Warren at running back. So went hero RB with Hampton, but then followed him up with double-clicking Pollard and Warren. Wide receiver room of Neighbors, London, and Moore, who I feel great about, followed by Hollywood Brown and Isaiah Bond, who I feel less great about. And then the best tight end room I've ever compiled, Laporta, Andrews, and Goddard. Might be bad having all 3. Plan to stop at 2, but felt like I took what the draft board was giving me. And again, there's a good chance that 2 of these guys hit my lineup, and it's because, we got two decent spike weeks. These guys can, at least Laporta and Andrews can put up points on par with wide receivers. So a lot of the receivers I was interested in just went. I will take Adam Thielen here and hope that he is going to keep something near the role he had last season. It's a little worrisome because, all the mocks have Carolina taking another wide receiver. So it's going to get crowded there if you have, mystery first round wide receiver plus Xavier Legette plus Coker, who they like, occupying the slot, and then Thielen gets a little worrisome. Yeah, is tight end in the flex the new best ball meta? Yeah, I need that to be the thumbnail, because that's what I did, and I did not just do it for shock value. I was in a range where I was not thrilled with any of my other options, and I talked myself into saying, this is a team that will likely have a tight end in the flex at some point. And that could be bad. That could be really bad. But, I mean, are you telling me, like, Mark Andrews has less chance of hitting your flex than, like, Keon Coleman? It's got to be a coin flip there. So, I don't know. It could be bad. It could be bad, but we're testing things out. And hopefully it works out. So now I am at a point where definitely want to add some running backs to this room. Again, no more quarterbacks and tight ends. I don't care if Brett Favre, comes back to the league and is available at quarterback. I will not take him. I don't know why Brett Favre was my example. I don't even care for the guy that much. He's probably like 65 now. But yeah, I must not take any more quarterbacks here. And we are firmly in the dart throw range of players. And I think my preference would be RJ Harvey, but I will not get upset if he goes. Again, I have loaded in here the leg up rankings. I typically use the Matic rankings, but I'm trying these out just to try to vary my player pool a little bit. And to be frank, I kind of know where guys go, and I'm going to click the people I want anyway. So it's a little bit of window dressing because I unfortunately tend to IKB these things more than I should. But again, trying to do things to round out my exposures. The thing I need to do most is get an overlay, but I haven't done that yet. So until then, I will just mess around with the rankings and hope that convinces me to take some different guys every now and then. So Ertz, Robinson, Darnold go. Jay Puppy with Sam Darnold as his first quarterback. That is a team. My goodness. So this was the guy that took 4 running backs first, A-Chain, Genty, Kyron, and Cook, and then just started clicking wide receivers. I mean, I thought my team was bad. This team, I'm sorry, Jay Puppy. I disagree with what you're doing, brother. But you're probably out there saying, I'm going to try something new. And my God, I appreciate you doing that, bud. So keep it up, man. Keep it up. Let's see. I want to take Higgins. If he falls, I would be happy with that. If not, I will take AD Mitchell, I think. Higgins goes. It's one of those things where when something's taken away from you, you realize how much you wanted it. I really would have preferred Higgins to Mitchell, but I will take Mitchell and move on. Hope that he sees something of a second-year breakout. When he was on the field, he was quite productive. The issue with him was getting him on the field and getting him to pay attention if he wasn't the primary, the first read in a route. The word is that, if he wasn't going to get the ball, he just didn't care, which seems bad, but his talent is undeniable. And, at pick 184, I think we were taking him higher last year. Hopefully see some improvement there. Betch goes. He's the guy I've been taking absolute gallons of. Again, trying to make some different clicks. I have over 40% Betch. That's probably bad. And, what I have learned this year is if I'm going to take stands where I have 40% of a guy, I want them to be intentional. Like last year, I ended up with 40% Abanikanda, and that was literally because I was just going off of rankings, and I had no opinion on the guy. But, I was like, oh, he's probably the backup for the Jets. I didn't really, like him per se more than the other guys in the range, but I got to 40%. This year, if I have 40%, it's because I said, no, I think this is a good click. So I'm happier with how I've done things because my high exposed players at least are high exposed because I want them to be, not because I've outsourced my thinking on them. So, this is how I sleep at night, having 45% David Njoku, because I say, well, I'm the one that clicked it. It's not because I was going off of rankings. Nobody really has him ranked ahead of Jonnu and Warren there, but I think I prefer him to those guys, and I almost prefer him over Mark Andrews if I'm really gonna give the truth serum take. But I actually did take Mark Andrews ahead of him this draft, but that was because he was almost 20 picks past ADP, and I was just a sucker for the ADP value. I'm going to take Tez Johnson here. Again, I'm happy with my first 3 receivers, and if I want a 4th guy who could hit my lineup, Tez Johnson, if you like him, he's Tank Dell. If you don't like him, he's bad Tutu Atwell. I think that, it's a big risk taking a, 155-pound wide receiver, but if the right team drafts him and the right team figures out how to use him, he seems like he could be a kind of game breaker. So I'll take the risk there with my 8th wide receiver. And I will likely take one more receiver and then start clicking on running backs. Although I don't think any of these receivers I'm truly excited about. So I am going to swap over to running back. I have almost 40% Brashad Smith. I do want to vary that. I'm going to take Jordan James ahead of him to try to build up my exposure to him a little bit. He, shared a backfield with Bucky Irving. It was almost, I believe it was near a 50-50 split. They've had virtually identical yards per carry stats. So if you're up there competing with a guy like Bucky, I'm automatically going to be interested in you. So I'll take a little bit of James there. So there goes Smith. There goes Tootin. Estime. Man, Estime was a guy I took a ton of last season. Felt like the run out was really good, and then he was a game day inactive in the playoffs, and I just can't get past that. I was listening to some stuff where they said, oh, that was a matchup thing with Kansas City. They knew it was going to be hard, kind of running up the middle against KC, but if you really like a running back, I think he should be playing, especially with how they kind of rotate guys. When you have Tyler Beatty starting over you, that just seems really bad. So I have taken none of him this season, and I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. If Estime beats me, he beats me. I take a lot of LeQuint Allen. Early on, I was taking a lot of Khalil Mullings. Raheem Sanders was a guy I was talked into by Sacrilegious, and then Corain was talking about him on the on a pod. I forget who he was with. It sounded like Sanders was a guy who fell basically because he was injured a couple years ago. But if you look at his sophomore year, it was electric, and then the rest was bad. But if he can get past his health concerns, he could be a guy in the NFL. So I've been trying to take a little more. Plus, his nickname was Rocket, which seems good for a 230-pound guy. Let's see. Kyle Manungai is a guy that on some draft boards is pretty high, and he's completely undrafted in others. I am going to make this a Kyle Manungai team. This is already a weird enough team. And let's just finish it off with something truly off the board here. And our running back room is going to be Hampton, Tony Pollard, Jalen Warren, RJ Harvey, Jordan James, and Kyle Manungai. Looking at it, I actually think I'm going to benefit from a 7th running back dart versus a 9th receiver. I am pretty darn confident in 3 of these receivers. And then as a 4th receiver / flex, I have this pool of a mix of dusty veterans and rookies. So I think I'm actually going to audible and try to take one more of these running backs on this team. Wow, Jackson Dart is still there, which is kind of crazy, because in some drafts you get to pick 200 and there's no quarterbacks left who are guaranteed starters, and then Jackson Dart, who's definitely not a guaranteed starter, but I personally think will be starting. He ends up being gone too. So that's somewhat interesting. I'm going to queue up Sanders and Mullings and take one of them. So I'll take Rocket Sanders here. So that'll do it. That will round out Sanders here. This draft was pretty quick. It took about 40 minutes. So I am going to hop in another one now. So if anyone is watching and wants to join, we are waiting for 4, waiting for 3. If anyone wants to hop in. Let's see. Waiting for 1. Waiting for 1. So hopefully if you are here and you wanted to hop in this, you were able to do so. All right. Sounds like Buck has joined. Buck, a legend of the ship chasing and Matic communities. There he is at 4. And I am at the turn. Yikes. Never a fan of the turn. I have to say it is my least favorite pick to draft from, and it's really because I think there's a tier break after literally pick 11. If nobody goes out of the ordinary, you are then not getting one of the elite wide receivers, although I do think Drake London, the difference to me between Drake London and Brian Thomas is pretty low, especially with what we saw from Penix at the end of last year. So that does, however, rely on you taking London at the turn. And then I end up with too much London because I'll take London if I'm picking at 8, and then London's back at 16 or where do you end up, 15. So I find myself with more Drake London than I want, and a lot of that again is because every time I'm at the 12, I seem to end up with him. But we'll see. Sometimes people do weird stuff. Ashton Jeanty gets pulled into the first round by the Slappy community, who simply say, I must have him. So sometimes I can get lucky and get like a Neighbors or a BTJ at the turn, but it is not something we can rely on. So it looks like Buck takes CD Lamb. And let me navigate away. Buck takes CD Lamb. Good pick there. The Cowboys are going to be better than last season. It is interesting seeing Gibbs not in the top 4. He tends to go there, but the 2-hole took us Bijan over Barkley, which I think is a perfectly defensible thing to do. A lot more tread on the tires of Bijan, and he actually has the goal line work, which I hear can be good. And late season Bijan really took over the entire backfield. So, it'll be interesting to see if we see a flippening, if Saquon really stays at the 102, because I don't think people want to do that. So Danimal, friend of the community, because he takes Derrick Henry, which means I do not have to reach for London. I can do a BTJ Ashton Jeanty full slappy start. Buck says, I'm not sold that Gibbs will not again just split with Demont. That is a risk, right? Like, our last memory of Gibbs was with either Demont out or Demont clearly not healthy. So, I think we're paying for ceiling prices for Gibbs. So I do agree there. I think he's the most talented running back. He's in a really good offense, but he's also kind of in the worst backfield of the elite running backs, in my opinion. So I definitely am sympathetic to the argument. I take him, but I would not take him ahead of Saquon or Bijan myself. I think CD could nuke the entire year. Yeah, you and me both, Buck. I mean, I take unstacked Dak because I think CD could be that good this season. I think we all forgot how good that offense was the year before last. And we're all just for some reason like kind of discounting that. We were taking CD at the 102 last year, and I think the Cowboys are going to be better. And I don't think that's a controversial opinion, but somehow like we're not really, in best ball, we're not connecting those dots, which to me are pretty glaring. But we're getting some discounts on that. And I wonder if part of it is because the Cowboys are so unsettled. Like, we're assuming they take Gene T, but they might not. We're assuming they're going to sign another receiver, but who? Or are they going to draft somebody? So maybe there's a little bit of just like uncertainty risk there. But Lamb to me is as close to a sure thing as you can get. I mean, obviously injuries, whatever, but I think Lamb is an absolute smash. I like every time I get him, I'm pretty happy. All right, so we see Jay Bird double tapping Bucky and Hall. Let's zoom out and see if anyone's doing anything really weird so far. It looks like no. The Derrick Henry guy takes Brock Bowers, so he is going to be a little behind in the wide receiver department. Buck, I see you took Garrett Wilson. That is one of my favorite clicks of the third round. I don't see why he goes as late as he does. I think every time I get on this stream, I have my Garrett Wilson rant, so I don't need to pull the string and do it, but I think he's a great pick, and he's going to have a better situation than last year. And we were taking him at the end of the first round last year, and now you got him at pick 28. I just don't understand his ADP. Trey McBride goes at 30, perfectly reasonable there. Again, I don't love paying the second round for Brock when I can pay this third round for McBride. I think they're pretty much a coin flip of who's going to do better. But, again, like Sacrilegious has noted, we're probably paying first round prices for Bowers next season. But we also might have seen, things really did break well for Bowers. The quarterback play was bad, but not awful. He was hyper targeted. His target competition was really dusty Jacoby Myers, and they had no running game to speak of. So, you end up with a little more target competition. They're able to run the ball more, and all of a sudden, the situation might not be as good as it was the year before. And we're all just assuming, oh, he's a rookie, so it's going to get better. When I don't know if that's really a lock. So I am up here. I think I will take the value on Chase Brown. If I do that, I'm not going to take a quarterback. But part of me thinks I take two receivers instead. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to take MHJ and JMO rather than Brown. It's not because I am super worried about Brown, although I am. I know there's the FUD that Cincinnati is absolutely going to bring in another running back. The question is of what quality, what does the backfield split look like? And so there is definitely some risk that Chase Brown, worst case scenario, it returns to something like the beginning of last year when he was splitting with Moss. Best case scenario is Brown is still the goal line back and, getting the bulk of the carries. Clay, welcome. Yeah, Thomas Jeanty at the turn, I am definitely happy getting, because I feel like 1 through 11 doesn't seem to vary too much unless someone pulls running back up into the first round. I'm with you on the McBride Bowers talk. Yes, let's go. Just lost the tournament passing on Brown. Good game. I know it's a tough decision there, right? I'm leaning a little into the this is a deep running back class. So I probably do plan on taking one, at around 60, 61. You typically get your choice of like a Hampton, a Caleb Johnson. Let's look here. Yeah, so there's this range, Kamara down to Connors goes to the guy at the turn versus the wide receivers in the early 60s. I'm not as enamored with, and it's a little thin. Like, I don't love Pickens. I don't love Sutton. I don't love Judy. And then I find myself, I actually like this range in the 70s more. So am I going to pull them down into the 60s? That's kind of what I run into there, which is why I passed on Brown. Now, you may say, yeah, you get, Amari and Hampton, but you passed on Chase Brown. That's bad, which is a fair point, right? Like, but I guess, from doing these drafts when I'm at the turn, I tend to like taking at least one running back with my what pick is this? My 5th or 6th pick versus leaving the 4th round with 2 running backs. That's kind of how I end up feeling. When Stafford goes to the Giants, where does Neighbors go? Well, So Neighbors is going at 10. Or actually, he normally goes at 11. Or does he go at 10? I don't know how much he moves up, right? Like we're not moving him ahead of anyone, Jamar Chase through Justin Jefferson, on this board. So maybe he moves up to 7. I think I would take him ahead of Nico, Amon-Ra, and Puka. So I would say probably to around 7 is where I would take him. That's a big jump though in the first round. That's a lot. But I definitely would take him ahead of Nico Collins at that point. Frankly, Buck, I already kind of take him there at 7 sometimes. Like I take him over BTJ almost every time. I take him over Amon-Ra. So I think I'm taking him at 9 currently, but I would probably move him up even more. The only reason I don't take him every time is because I don't want like 0% Brian Thomas or like 0% Amon-Ra or Collins, because that just seems bad. But I do kind of sneak in a little more Neighbors than I probably should based on the ADP. Joe Burrow. Nobody took Joe Burrow, and usually the backstop for Joe Burrow is the Chase Brown guy, but not Jaff doesn't even do it. My God. Okay, so now I have a decision to make. According to the rankings, it would be Travion Henderson. I take no Jerry Jeudy. I am not interested in the Jerry Jeudy life. I think I'm going to double. Oof. This is tough. I don't know if I actually want 3 receivers. Oh, God. All right. I'm taking Caleb because that's who I want. And I'm so tempted to take naked Joe Burrow. I'm not going to do it, guys. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take 3 rookie running backs, the slappiest of slappy. The Joe Burrow take would just be for shock value here. But although I don't hate it, because I don't want Joe Burrow only when I have Higgins or Jamar Chase. So this probably would have been a decent team if I'm ever going to take a naked Burrow. But I do think naked Burrow is kind of bad. And I agree. We were talking in the Discord yesterday, in the Matic Discord, about the 5th round pocket passer just being a trap. And every year we fall for the trap, whether it was Herbert his sophomore year, whether it was, did Stroud make it up to the 5th? I feel like Stroud was going super high, and it just doesn't work out. And I don't need to be that guy this draft, especially because I kind of like this team as constructed. I'm going to be taking more going forward. Yeah, right. Like I think he's much more likely to end up closer to the top half of the first round than like falling into the second round. Like the Giants QB situation simply can't get worse. Like he's not going to slide backwards. Like it's not like when you have Drew Lock throwing to you, when you have Daniel Jones throwing to you, and you're still able to produce. That's pretty darn impressive. And you were a rookie. Like you might get better. I am wheels up on Neighbors. I might just take him over Amon-Ra every time. And I was a huge Amon-Ra stan for like the past 3 years. Love Amon-Ra. But I'm starting to worry his best seasons are behind him, because it started to look like the offense was not flowing through him like it had been in years past by the end of the year. Seeing so much more JMO. I think Goff was comfortable throwing to other receivers more than just Goff. So he kind of, and towards the end of the year before last, they were almost using Amon-Ra as a bit of a replacement for the run game at times. They would throw him these really short passes that were just super high percentage passes. And that was super effective, but I didn't really see that as much last year. And that to me was a big part of, he wasn't just obviously, I'm not saying he was a PPR scam, but he had a huge PPR floor, and that started slipping away this year. So that's a long way of saying I prefer Neighbors to Amon-Ra, but also I don't want no Amon-Ra because he's really good. But I do worry. I have a little bit of concern for how high we're taking him this year. I could see next year he's a 2-3 turn guy, like starting to slide, versus Neighbors could be the guy we're taking at 102. So we are in that rich pocket of wide receivers here. Most of them have gone. We get that fun. We get three Niner receivers picked in 4 picks. Buck, you taking Brandon Ayuk. I think, in our Discord, we were having a endless Ayuk debate. I know where you fall on that. We fall on opposite ends of the spectrum, agree to disagree. I do see the argument that he is definitely worth the risk. We were taking him up into the second round last year. I hope he's healthy. It is not without risk, but it is certainly not without upside. The Brandon Ayuk pick. So coming up in the 80s, let's see what is coming up here. Potential to take Bo Nix if I want to take a quarterback. I would like to add a receiver, but the receivers get a little disgusting if we're being fully candid. Wow, this guy went Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels at quarterback. My God. And anytime you only have one wide receiver through 6 rounds, you must add another running back. Ricky Pearsall goes, a little unfortunate because I would have probably preferred Pearsall here. I don't have a lot of Bo Nix. I don't mind taking him naked. I will add a share of Bo Nix, and then I will add a Matthew Golden as my 4th receiver here. I see the argument for taking Hawkinson, but I do think Matthew Golden is going to go pretty high in the draft. And so I'll take Golden there, and Nix. Hopefully I can get Mims. Mims usually comes around to the turn at 108. Not every time. If he doesn't come to me, that's fine. He has enough rushing upside to make up for it. I could, take Troy Franklin really late if I had to. I could tell myself Juwan Johnson's going to be their tight end and take him, round 17 or round 19 or 20. That was somewhat of an exposure pick, but also I'm not really in on Josh Downs, and I wanted to kind of round out my wide receiver room with how heavy I went early on running backs. So again, picking at the turn is always a little weird because there's just no hope of pushing anybody because it's, pushing them for 20 picks. You're just not going to get them. And if you can see them on your draft board, they're probably not coming back to you. But you kind of got to look at the ADPs and plan ahead for those pockets and kind of know the board and, at least have some plan in mind for what you're going to do in each round, more than when you're picking in the middle and you can do a little more picking and choosing than you can when you're at one of the turns. So let's see, anything sticking out if we pull up the draft board. Again, this DJ Speedy guy going double elite QB, and then his 2 wide receivers are Neighbors and Cup. Just seems bad. And then you have other guys that don't have a QB or a tight end yet, like Squanto and Jace Ward, playing this very much by the book here. Buck, I see you took Baker, the old unstacked Baker pick. I don't mind that because I think he is really good and he's attached to a really good offense. I've come around a little more to the unstacked QB thing, and frankly, if you wait for your own stack, like if you sat around waiting for CeeDee Lamb at his ADP, it might just not be there. So I don't mind that. You know, I don't mind that. I think that's just something that is a thing that happens in these big boards, and obviously you want to get your stack, but that's not always feasible with the way the ADPs line up. Just donating to UD, Greg. I mean, I am nothing if not a friend to the ecosystem, and so if I can keep this whole operation going, I will do everything I can to. Sneaky rushing upside at a certain point when a QB falls, the raw points you give up by passing him, you don't have to stack, and end up being detrimental. Buck, I agree with you. I think something that stuck with me, some of the recaps from last year, are that in battle royales, people were not taking unstacked QBs enough. And I think that logic extends to, a little bit to best ball. I think that scratching a QB off because you didn't get either of the receiver seems wrong. Like when you put it that way. So I don't see anything. Wow, DJ Speedy, why did you take Goff as your third quarterback? Dear God. Okay, that's fine. This is the guy with Allen, Daniels, Goff, and 2 receivers. Mr. Speedy, sir. He took that a little too much to heart, but you know what? I cannot fault him. So I'm going to take Mims. I don't like any of these tight ends at this point. And I am tempted to take Caleb because this is a decent fall, but I don't really need him. So I'm going to take Mims and Bateman here. I don't mind these guys as 5th and 6th receivers. Bateman was a guy that started coming around last year, and Mims completes my stack. So I'm pretty happy with the way this team is coming together. Bo Nix at quarterback, Gene T, Johnson, and Henderson, all rookies at running back. BTJ, MHJ, and then JMO, Matthew Golden, Mims, and Bateman at receiver. This is going to be a late round tight end team if I've ever seen one, but hopefully we can hit one of them. Not you, double elite QB, 2 wide receivers, 8th round guys. You guys got a gift. Buck, he's right. He's right because we have one of those people that doesn't know what they're doing. It's weirdly taking guys kind of ahead of ADP, but has no hope of finishing in the top 3, but not bad enough to cancel the draft. So that is kind of the dream scenario. Maybe saved me from myself in taking Goff because, I did not need Goff, and having 6 receivers that you're happy with is pretty nice, especially when it doesn't come at the cost of other positions. I'm happy with these 3 running backs. Hopefully they get drafted in good places. I generally don't like taking 3 rookie running backs as my first 3, but if I'm ever going to do it, these 3 are pretty much the ones I would do it with. I think I've seen these 3 as the top 3 backs in most boards. So, hopefully they're right about this being a good class. Buck with the Drake May pick. I love Drake May. Great pick. I know you are the Keyshawn Booty guy. I'm going to, have to see if I can snipe you on him. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. I would not intentionally do that. But yeah, I like the Drake May selection there for your team. Again, pretty much the same thing you said with the last comment about the sneaky rushing upside and not necessarily needing to see him stacked. So let's see what Jaybird does here. This is the Mahomes guy. Did get him stacked with Rice. Always nice to see. Seems like a reasonable team. Check the board again. Make sure nobody is doing anything too strange. Nothing looks too out of the ordinary here. I think, my team needs a tight end at this point. It would be, not a bad place to start picking up some of these tight ends. There's some late guys that are past pick 200, and then around this 130 range is a pocket of very interesting guys like Ingram, like Colston Loveland. I would be happy with them. I taken almost no Kincaid. I wonder if I should start. They, as Liam famously put, it's a slow developing position. And Kincaid, if you believe the Bills people, he was playing through a lot of injuries. I'd like to agree with that. I'm only in one dynasty league currently, and I paid a lot for Dalton Kincaid. And I know no one cares about my dynasty team, but I kind of need him to be good. And so I do have a soft spot for Kincaid, but he might be bad. I mean, he really might not be very good. So we will see. The one thing I'm definitely not doing is taking Travis Kelce, because that looked like a man who was ready to hang him up. And I don't want to draft a guy who retires in the 11th or 12th round. I think, it's one thing to take a 0. It's another to draft a guy who just never was going to play. That's just not great. Travis Hunter goes. Let's see what Jaff does. I love this team when your third wide receiver is actually a cornerback. Wow, he took Diggs. So I think I'm going to take double tap tight end here and be pretty happy with it, unless I'm missing something. I could take Trevor Lawrence. I could take Trevor Lawrence to stack with Brian Thomas. That is tempting. I'm definitely going to take Dallas Goedert here. This is a little bit of a choice for me. I gotta be honest. This is a little bit of a choice. I am going to take T-Law here. That was tough because I do like Loveland. I do want more Loveland. But the opportunity to stack my first pick, I think, is too much to pass up. And now my third quarterback can be a little more of a dart throw. But it would be interesting to see what people would do there. I don't love my first tight end being Goddard, and then my next one is going to be someone who's kind of bad or a complete rookie. But that's where I ended up there. One more thing about the Burrow price. Herbert and Stroud were shiny new toys when they were in the 5th. We know what Burrow can do with his weapons, but the key for me being on him this year is that he is the only pocket passer currently able to dice up the current defensive meta. In previous years, IMO, there were viable options with a similar ceiling late in draft, but I'm not sure there are this year. I mean, yeah, that's fair. We've seen it from Burrow year in, year out now. We know what he can do. We know they're bringing the band back together. I get it, right? I'm not taking him. I see the argument, but again, there is the risk. To me, the bigger risk is that the Bengals are just better and they're not in all these crazy shootouts. Like, if their defense is better, you're not going to need Burrow to throw for 5,500 yards. And so you might end up just with a slightly smaller offensive pie than we got this year. And so that's my concern, is that they're not going to be need him to do what he is capable of doing in a kind of Mahomesian light way. It's not just what he can do, it's what other QBs can't do. No, he's good. I love Joe Burrow. I think he's great. It's just the opportunity cost is pretty high. But I'm kind of with you. I do take him. I kind of fall in the middle of the argument. I think there are people who are a full fade on Burrow, and I don't think that's right. I'm kind of trying to figure out what I want to do with him, because I don't only want him when I have Brown. I don't want Jamar Chase to be tied to Burrow every time, and I don't want Burrow to be tied to him or Higgins every time. But it also feels a little weird taking him naked because there's nobody late to stack him with. I mean, I guess Gesicki, or you might spike a rookie. And I'm just out on Yoshi Voss. It's kind of chicken and egg, though. Does he score because they're behind, or are they ahead because he scored? That's the classic DFS, the DFS argument where you talk about like blowout risk. And it's like, oh, I don't want to play this guy because his team might blow out the other. It's like, well, stay with me. How are they going to blow them out? This guy's going to score points. So I do see what you're saying there. Again, I worry a little like that the pace of their games might be a little slower, and if they might take their foot off the gas a little bit. Like, they were in some pretty frantic back and forth games this year, and we'll see if that happens. I like the Cam Ward pick. I'm totally in on that. So let's look at your team, Buck. We got Baker, May, Ward, Jacobs, Mixon, and Bigsby at running back. CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Odunze, Ayuk, Ridley at receiver. This is a Buck team. This is all your guys, dude. And then Njoku and Pitts at tight end. If someone read me this team and said, whose team is this? I'd be like, this is all the guys Buck is in on in the Discord. So I like it. I like it. I mean, I'm not big on Odunze and Ayuk, but I respect those who are, and their arguments. So I am coming up. Let's see. I do like Otten here at tight end. I have been taking almost no Rico Dowdle, but I am sympathetic to the possibility that he is just the backup in Dallas, which is fine, because again, I'm kind of handcuffing him with G&T. And I think there's a chance he has a small role anyway. So I need a little more Dowdle, I think, than I've been taking. And Auden to me, I don't understand his ADP. I mean, he's a good player on a good offense that, actually has a little bit of contingent upside, which I feel like is weird and rare in a tight end. So like, I like his job on a normal day, but there's also the possibility for a lot more. So I'm frankly don't quite understand why he's at, in this deep range. It's like we always see Otten produce, and we're like, that's that's probably not real. So I don't mind taking Otten there as a second tight end who I don't think is going to be a zero and could actually have some spike weeks. Ollie Gordon going to Underzet. Isaiah Bond goes next. He's got the cool 00 touchdown celebration. Beyond that, I know he's a bit of a polarizing character. Buck takes Isaac Guerendo. Nothing wrong with that. I took a ton of Mitchell, who I thought was the backup from San Francisco last year. And the injury reporting in San Francisco is really special because they didn't really seem to indicate he was hurt. And then he went on the IR and never played it down. And I think I had like 30% in this. So taking Niner backup running backs is a high risk, high reward proposition because, if Guerendo's the guy and if McCaffrey misses any time, Guerendo's going to hit your lineup. And getting that at 165 is pretty good. So I am in on that selection there. Hunter Henry goes 168. I see Buck, you passed on the Henry May stack. Personally, I am a little worried that, and I haven't heard this anywhere, that the Patriots bring in like a younger tight end with a little more juice than Hunter Henry. I could see that happening. I could see that in the range of outcomes. And I say this as someone who takes a fair amount of Hunter Henry, but it does give me a little bit of pause for some reason or other. Io Manor to Smith, or to Buck rather. I think all I know about him is I believe he's Canadian, which is exciting, and he is another. I guess all the wide receivers in this class are a little polarizing, other than like Ted McMillan. I think when you're at this range, you're throwing a lot of darts anyway, so absolutely nothing wrong with that pick there. Shedeur Sanders goes next. So if I want another QB, it's probably now or never for me. And the question is, do I really want to take someone else when I have Nix and Lawrence here? I don't know. I might just not take one and then kind of let the fates dictate if I get a third QB at 204. Unclear. I might take Stafford if he's here, but I'm again in a little bit of a quandary if that's what I want to do or not. Let's see. So I am up. I am going to queue up the name that I click way too much, but I am going to take Jack Betch here. And you know what? I am going to take Stafford here. I'm going to take Matt Stafford. A lot of these position players are all darts, and I'm a little agnostic to who I get now versus who I get in the next round. But I think I'm going to feel a little uncomfortable with only two QBs. T-Law missed, significant time last year. Nix, he's a little bit of, he can get outside the pocket and run, and, maybe a little injury risk there. I don't know. I sleep better at night with 3 QB builds, so I'm just going to stick with that here. Plus, I don't think Nix and Lawrence are so elite that I've spent so much draft capital I can't afford a third QB. So I'll take Stafford, even though he weirdly seems to be able to, have games where he throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, but scores 14 fantasy points. It's like the math never seems to add up with Stafford. I think that should be looked into. But in all seriousness, he's always a bad fantasy quarterback, but a good real life quarterback. So that's a long way of saying wherever he goes, I hope I hope his numbers match his real life value, because he is a very good quarterback. And, at 181, I'm willing to take the risk. He could end up in, I think Shope on ADP chasing was convinced he's going to the Giants, which would attach him to Neighbors. I mean, obviously he's attached to Puka now, so it's, we're not talking an upgrade in, we're not talking a big upgrade in his receivers, but it could be a big downgrade for defense. So we could see, a Matt Stafford in a place where he's got to do a lot more passing than he has in years past. So who knows? If he does leave the Rams, we could see some good change of scenery, and maybe he represents a value, because he goes so late. Like, the secret's out that he somehow does not score well for fantasy, and he's obviously completely immobile. I think he has like 9 rushing yards in his career at this point. I made that stat up. Don't look that up. But he doesn't really run. All right, let's see. Demario Douglas goes to our friend Buck. Is Booty still out there? Did we pass on Booty? Booty is still out. He goes at 216. So this might be a wraparound pick for for Buck. We will see. We will see what Buck does here. I'm not telling you to take Booty. I'm just saw you take a different Mason. So you are going to get your Niner backup running back locked up here. Mason, my understanding, is a free agent, but they could easily bring him back. Obviously, the Niners could draft somebody again, as they are wont to do, but no problem taking both of them, because if Mason leaves, again, he's going to go somewhere, and he showed he had enough to be a good starting running back. I wish he could catch the ball. I think if he had a little pass catching chops, he could potentially be a starter in this league. But I don't know if, in today's NFL, if, a guy like Mason would get like a workhorse role. But he was darn good when he was the 101 in BRs that week when McCaffrey went down, and he was killing it. So we are coming up here. Let's see. I'll queue up Rashard Smith. All right, let's see. By rank. All right, Buck, I'll be nice. I'll be nice and not take Booty in case you do want him. I'll take Rashard Smith and Savion Williams. I have not taken a ton of Savion Williams. I've heard him described as one of those like classic, man without a position guys that doesn't usually translate to the NFL. But for me, for my 8th receiver, when I feel pretty good about this, about my first 7, I will take I'll take a shot on him. And Rashard Smith, I've been taking a stand on him. My high exposure to him is intentional because I think he has a shot of being a guy who after the combine just kind of rockets up. So I don't mind taking him there. I think Mason has a shot to share a backfield. Yeah, I do too. I agree with that. Definitely showed enough when given the opportunity in San Francisco. Again, like that pick. Jackson Dart would have been there for me, but I don't need any more Jackson Dart. I have way too much already. I am now firmly in the Davis Maddock camp that I hope he goes to the Jets because I have an absolute bag of him. So if he's starting, I am going to be very happy with my exposure. Again, he'll be. I believe he will be throwing at the combine. Shedeur Sanders announced he's not going to throw at the combine. I don't believe Cam Ward is. So, Dart might be by default the guy who generates a bit of buzz because, I think he's going to be the top guy who actually throws this weekend. So hopefully we can see something. Oh, Buck, brother, Turpin. No, this is a bridge too far. I'm willing to open my third eye on a lot of things, but Turpin, if ever there was a chance for him, it was last season. I think he scored on like a punt return last year, and I remember there being a little bit of buzz. And sorry, man, I'm not there. I am not there. The Cowboys have to bring in some competition there because I don't think Cooks is coming back. I think he's a free agent. Ryan Flournoy wasn't very good. I think they liked what they had in Tolbert, but so I do like him. I saw him go here, at 210. I think that's a pretty good pick. Does this guy have? No, this guy doesn't have Dak. But there is a chance that offense is like revamped and they bring in a couple new guys. But I don't think it's going to be Turpin. But hey, man, if it is, he will be owned at less than 1% in this contest. There was a chance for him last season. Oh, this was not just a bit. You put your hard-earned American dollars where your mouth is, and you took Turpin. So I'm ready for the bull case. I am ready for the Turpin bull case. I eagerly await why that was a good pick, because Buck, I am ready to be sold. You know, if you didn't take him, I didn't want to hear the sales pitch, but now that you have, I am listening. 500 yards and 2 TDs on offense last year when Dak imploded. Isn't Turpin like Tez Johnson size? Let me see what Turpin Cowboys. Turpin is 5'9", 152 pounds. Brother, were you the one fudding Tez Johnson? And now we're taking Turpin? Oh boy. Fastest man alive. He is. You know what, I realized you were not fudding Tez Johnson. That was actually Emo Cowboy who was doing that. So I apologize. Let me make my pick, and then we can get back to Turpin talk, which could be the title of the next podcast here. All right, so I am going to close this out with another rookie. I'm going to take Raheem Rocket Sanders and Chig Okonkwo, who I would have taken Tyler Higbee, but Higbee went. So I'll take Chig and see how this goes. Take Raheem Sanders. Okay, so now I have Pickin. No, not Tez for me. Sorry, Buck. Do you mean you like Tez or you don't like Tez? But yeah, we know Turpin is super fast. I do worry about a full-time player who is as small as Kevontae Turpin is. And I know that's like old school, hardo thinking, but he really is tiny. I picked Turpin BBM last. He was a great 18th round pick. I'm not asking this facetiously. How many times did he hit your lineup? Like I'm genuinely trying to remember, because I mostly actually play DFS, so I'm trying to. Turpin must have been like a min-priced guy, and I don't recall him ever being like a guy you should have played. And like even in like showdown. So I'm just, I worry about the upside of Turpin. I want to say I see the Turpin bull case, but I almost feel like last year was the Turpin bull case. Why does he have to be full-time when he's free? That's fair, but is he like, what's a spike week for him? Like, I don't know how he gets to like 15 fantasy points in a week. Like, I guess he has one 70-yard touchdown. I just feel like that's like a lot of that's the way a lot of like super late guys get there. But I mean, he's fast. I will, Buck, you've given me something to think about. I just don't know if I'm there. I guess he was technically a Pro Bowler. My God, he was a Pro Bowler? All right, I will look more into this, Buck. I am sympathetic to the argument. And obviously anyone in the 20th round we can make a case for. So I don't know if I'll click him, but I will take some time and think about that, because that is somewhat interesting. And Juwan Johnson rounds out Buck's team. So I like the team that you assembled there. And I probably should have taken Juwan Johnson, hoping that he went to Denver. So maybe a misstep by me there. But this will be my last draft. thank you guys so much for coming by. It is definitely more fun to do these and chat with you all. I like being in the room with you guys and talking about it. So thank you again. And, as always, please like and subscribe on your way out. And we'll do this again soon. Take care, everyone.